My name's Kiara Stevenson and I am the set designer for Midsummer Night's Dream, which basically entails being in charge of the scenery and the visuals and the visual language of the show. I suppose that the initial sparks and inspiration for Midsummer came about those kind of early conversations with Rob and sharing images, and one of the images Rob shared with me very, very early on was a couple of really distinct images of individuals stood at a piano just pressing one key, and that moment of magic when a performer or a musician comes to an instrument and by interacting with it you kind of enter into another world of imagination and magic. So our initial design ideas actually involved many pianos. We had 3 or 4 or 5 pianos sort of rocking around the stage on different levels, and we got quite far down with that idea and that route, and then actually sometimes it's quite helpful to take a step back and just distill it down to really what's needed. And we found by taking away our dozens of pianos on stage and just leaving one, it suddenly felt more special. The process of making models and coming to a white card presentation or a final presentation is for me always a mixture of the actual 3D model itself, which is normally at a 1:25 scale where people are about that big. It's a real mixture of that, as well as on the computer you can quite quickly draw up shapes and have a look at them in 3D, but you never really get the emotion of the materials and the textures. So I'm always sort of toing and froing between my laptop and technically quickly just getting a shape or a form up, and then the model, and super gluing my fingers together while I'm trying to create the card version and the tangible version. Conversations with builders and budgets and fabrics and which ones will look best under light, which ones are affordable, how many meters of it do we need, how many costumes can we make for each character. It's sort of it gets far more complicated after that initial design presentation, in a way, because you suddenly delve so deeply into all the little crevices of what you want to achieve.
When all the designs are finished and our director Rob and set designer Kiara are happy and we're all on the same page moving forward, then Sally and I sat down together and went through the designs and the mood boards, which the mood boards really help the designs. They support the different sort of details of the costumes and give a feel for what the design is saying as well. And so we go through that together, and then Sally takes all that to the wardrobe department, and we look at whether it's going to be sourcing fabric or sourcing items of clothing. Sort of make an action plan from there.
Yeah, initially, so we start from that process, and then I would take the designs back down to the wardrobe department and we'd look at those together with the team and work out what we can achieve within a given budget. So we would submit a budget and cost everything up and work out how much of it can be made in-house.
We're really incredibly lucky at the Crucible with the wardrobe department. Like, it's quite rare to have a working wardrobe department. So it's very special and very exciting to be able to make so much here.
So we have 3 cutters, 3 wardrobe assistants. The cutter's role is to interpret the design and have conversations with myself and Annalise about how the technical part of that is going to work, because some designs can be, it's very much looking at the practicality of them working, be cutting out the patterns normally on the cutting tables and drafting patterns up, cutting the fabric out, passing it over to the assistants, and the assistants will, it's almost like a jigsaw piece, the assistants will sew all that together, and then it will go back to the cutter to kind of do some finishing off and ready for a first fitting.
I mean, I'd say when you get into production week, the job is not done and dusted. It's sort of, in a way, you've only just laid the foundations of the show, and you've got your toolbox, and then it's what you do in that week, in those days, very quickly, and very creatively and very collaboratively, because you've got a whole cast on stage in costumes under hot lights, and me and Rob and Rich and Annalise have to come up with solutions to solve certain problems about timing or audience focus and attention on which bit of the stage or the music, Dan's music, you know, how that's going to seamlessly feed in to the words and the language of the play. So yeah, no, it's all, I think the majority of the work, I would say, or the making of the show, the spirit of the show happens in that production week, which is the best bit.